want to start today with a thank you. This is my 100th video on YouTube, and without your engagement of being subscribers, of commenting, of sometimes giving me trouble with love, I wouldn't know that it was something that was valuable to you. So thank you so much for participating in the channel and for being part of this bass community in general and being the great bass players that you are. So today we are doing another installment of the Essential Bassline series, which, if you don't know, is a series of videos where I am breaking down the most important bass lines we all should know, specific things we need to play on specific tunes. I've got a whole list for you here on YouTube. Maybe I'll put a link in the description or above. But if you're interested in this, check that out. So today we are talking about something that you most likely have already encountered. But if you haven't, stick around and learn this very simple intro to All the Things You Are, probably written by Charlie Parker, and we'll get into that a little bit more after we talk about the line itself. So it's quite simple, actually. It's one little phrase that is repeated down a half step. It's repeated a couple times in one sort of tonality and then down a half step. It is so much a part of All the Things You Are that you can consider it as part of the tune. So if you're learning All the Things You Are, you should absolutely learn this intro, which is almost always played in some form or another. However, be prepared that it might not be in the particular instance that you're playing. So basically it's the fifth of the root of the chord we're going to, which is a D flat 7 sharp 9. It's the fifth of that, so A flat going to D flat, so 5-1, but it's preceded by a half step before. So A natural to A flat to D flat. Okay, that's it. That's the main crux of all you need to learn. What's obviously a little bit tricky there is that there's this sort of awkward jump from A flat to D flat, which of course you don't have to do, and on electric it's a lot easier, but then you've got to be super confident about where you are here in the middle of the neck if you're going to play. So if you want to play in the middle of the neck, you got to be really confident here. You don't sort of have an anchor point of the nut here. So we're real familiar with this part of the neck. A flat, and then that jump down to D flat, you know, that's going to help you to really solidify that interval for yourself when you're doing that a lot. So that little line repeats a couple times. And now it's going to take that same, little figure and take it down a half step. So the chord now is a C7 sharp 9, and so the crux of it is the 5 to the 1, so G to C, but that G is preceded by a half step above, which is now A flat to G. Then that's really it. You can obviously get recentered when you're using the A flat to the G, the open G there. That can kind of recenter your thought, right? Because we have the benefit of that open string. So there is one benefit to doing it in half position here, in that you've got the opportunity then to sort of reset your ear and your hands with the use of that open G. But that's a nice exercise, right? Going from C with your fourth finger to A with your second finger, as we're going back to the D flat 7. That's not necessarily a lot of times the kind of fingering we might use, but it makes most sense in this instance. The other thing I wanted to point out is an even simpler thing, which is that usually the bass does play that with the piano or whomever. But we can absolutely just play the answer to that, which we hear the piano, drums, sometimes guitar, sometimes doing, which is on the and of 2. So we're just playing the root on the and of 2 for those. So it would be like dee da da, answer, call, be da 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 da, be da da. totally legitimate to do that. And oftentimes, if you want to save your hands at the end of the night, you've played 77,000 choruses, totally fine to also do that. So that's really the only thing you need to know. There are instances, though, we should know it so well that perhaps it's being played in 7, like Brad Meldau, or perhaps somebody wants to do it in 3, which is something that I often call. Usually that we just don't do the intro if we're going to do the tune in 3, or if someone wants to do it in another key, we have to think about what these notes are in relation to the whole tune, right? So that's going to take a little bit of thought as to, okay, well, the C7 is the 5th of the first chord. C7 goes to F minor 7 in the normal key we play it on. So let's say we're going to play it in B flat instead of A flat. And so then the first chord would be G. So then that means that that dominant chord is going to be a D. And so then the first part is going to be an E flat 7, because this first chord is a half step up from the 5th of the first chord we play. So the first chord of the intro is a half step up from the 5th of the first chord we play. I know it's a little tricky to describe with words, right? But so if our first chord of the tune is G minor, then the sort of tonality of this intro is D7 sharp 9. That means that this whole line is going to start on an E flat 7 sharp 9. And remember, it goes 5 to 1 is the crux of the thing. It's going B flat to E flat. So the line is going to start on B natural, a half step above it. That makes sense? Now we're going to go to D7, and the crux of that is A to D, but we're going to start a half step above A. Make sense? I hope so. There's not a lot of times where if you're not playing with the vocalist, somebody's going to do it in another key. But if you are playing with the vocalist, be really ready to play this in other keys. So let's talk for a second about the composition and sort of the mythology around this intro. It's attributed to Charlie Parker, and it is said to come from Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C sharp minor. That's sort of apparently the inspiration. Here's what the very beginning of that Prelude in C sharp minor sounds like. Listen to this. So those are the same notes, and that makes sense that it would be defined as this is the inspiration. Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, very interested in classical music and classical composers. So that's probably the case. I never saw anything that sort of really disputed that, but I didn't see any real hard and fast definition that that is absolutely where they got it from. It could just be chance, probably not. But what I didn't know, and I have to give credit, which I will tag this YouTube creator that I don't remember his name offhand. I'm so sorry. I think it's Timbo, something Timbo. I will tag him for sure, because he brings up an extraordinarily interesting point, which is that there is an arrangement of a tune from Billy Eckstine's big band where Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie were members. Billy Eckstine's big band was one of the first big band, or was a big band, early big band that was playing bebop style. So Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie in this big band together, there is an intro to a tune that sounds almost exactly the same. And this is the precursor to their famous recording of All the Things You Are. Listen to this. So that is way closer even than the Rachmaninoff, right? So maybe whoever arranged that for Billy Eckstine got it from the Rachmaninoff, that's true. But if it's for the big band, do we know that Charlie Parker actually did it? Which means we're not really 100% sure who wrote this intro. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We just need to play it. I hope that you found this very simple thing helpful. Thanks again for being a part of this community for 100 videos. I really appreciate it. Be sure to look for the link below for free PDFs. And always remember, straight ahead and strive for tone.